The matter can proceed. The Leader of the Opposition.
I do move that this House condemns the Cook Labor government for its mismanagement and underfunding of hospitals, which has led to a health system buckling under pressure. The opposition is raising this issue as a matter of public interest because there is no greater responsibility of any government than the welfare of sick, injured and dying patients. And the government's own medical experts say West Australia's health system is not coping. Only last week we heard of record ramping, 7,000 hours. And I note that the Director-General of Health mentioned in her response that the system cannot cope. Yet to hear members opposite today in question time just dismiss the seriousness of the very issue that we now raise in this matter of public interest, it would make a casual observer think this government does not have any interest in fixing the issues in the health area of Western Australia that are so badly failing West Australians. And so perhaps, Mr Speaker, I might take the opportunity, and I appreciate some on the other side maybe don't read the newspaper, and that's fair enough. Maybe you don't. Maybe you choose to get your news elsewhere. I'm sure the Treasurer reads it on a Thursday, and why wouldn't she? An excellent column. But some on the other side perhaps don't read the newspaper. But maybe I'll just take the opportunity to remind those opposite who've dismissed things during question time, like we were asking questions about who's going to the school ball on the weekend, or what do we wear to such and such's party on Friday night, that we're talking about revelations of seeping radioactive waste, black mould and sewage leaks at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. And we're talking about further proof that West Australia's health system is in a state of catastrophic failure. And I need to point out to members opposite, these were based on work orders, real work orders. 1,500 of them. They came from real staff reports, not fictitious people, not people that just sort of went online and filled out a survey. These are the people who are in the hospital. They are the doctors, the nurses, the patients, the workers. Those people have filled out these reports of malfunctions and failures in the hospital system. And yet to hear question time today, it was as though they just waved away, like nothing to see, nothing to hear, nothing to reflect on. And perhaps those opposite don't want to hear it from us and from me. Fair enough, I get it. Perhaps they don't want to believe that these work orders are genuine based on real reporting from the very people that work in our hospital system. We heard the Health Minister say that she spent a lifetime representing frontline workers. Minister, these reports are from the frontline workers, the very people that you've said you've represented over a lifetime. Yet today, mysteriously, we don't want to hear about them. We don't want to hear from them. We're not interested in what they've got to say. Well, unfortunately for the members opposite, when something this serious is broadcast through the newspaper, on television and through the Parliament of Western Australia, people who work at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital and listen to the lack of response, the lack of empathy and the lack of recognition for their very genuine claims that are designed to make the safety and health of those people who enter Sir Charles Gardner Hospital better, hear them dismissed, then they ring Talkback Radio or they go on other forums to make sure that their concerns are heard. For example, like this caller on Nadia's program on the ABC, who says there are buckets and basins, cut basins, currently in the roof space above ICU to catch leaks at Charlie's.
How appalling.
Or this one, who said, I've worked for years at Fiona Stanley Hospital. Listening to John Carey talk about no black mould is embarrassing.
Shame.
Get him to look at the bathrooms in C Block at Charlie's. This just highlights that they're only told what they want to hear. And no wonder hospitals continue to be in the state they're in.
Shame.
There were more. What about this one? My dad was admitted into Charlie's as he had brain cancer. Brain cancer we're talking about. And on one admission, a panel of the roof fell on him in the middle of the night on his head.
God.
The hospital needs to be knocked down and rebuilt. It's not good enough. And this one, as a nurse, you couldn't pay me enough to work in these conditions. Health Minister, these are the frontline workers that you've talked about representing your entire career. And one of them says, you couldn't pay me enough to work in these conditions. Where are we as a society when we leave sick and vulnerable people in corridors for hours on end? But of course, those opposite us don't want to hear these stories today. They want to wave them away.
Yeah.
They want to divert. They want to deflect. They want to dismiss. It's the premiers and others opposite us. It's their 1A position. It's their best friend. It's what they use whenever any section of the community wants to highlight the failings of this state government. That's what they do. But they can't deflect real people calling radio stations and having their say. For example, Leanne, who called on the ABC radio this morning at 9:06 a.m. Leanne is a registered nurse, and Nadia Mitsopoulos said to her, "Hello, Leanne, do you work at Charlie's? Are you familiar with Charlie's?" Pretty reasonable. Talkback caller. Well, the response came from Leanne. "Yes, I am." Nadia says, "Tell me what you see." So I'm in another area of Charlie's. And just recently, we've had an overflow of faecal matter on the ground floor.
Shame.
And while we've got patients waiting in the waiting room, the smell is going through the whole department.
Disgrace.
We've also had, probably 3 years ago, we've had mould with actual mushrooms growing out of our ceilings.
Shame.
Health Minister, I hope you can hear this. The transcript is available. You can go onto ABC Catch Up. I'll tell you the time so you can listen back, or someone from your staff. Her name was Leanne. She was on air with Nadia Mitsopoulos on the ABC Radio Perth at 9:06 a.m. It won't be too hard to find. She said, we've also had, probably 3 years ago, we had mould with actual mushrooms growing out of the ceiling, and in the actual main corridors, every time there's a huge rainfall or downpour in Perth, there's always buckets and towels on the floor protecting all the leaks from the roof. It's outrageous. She gets asked another question about how quickly maintenance workers get on top of it. And Leanne responds, "Oh, the maintenance workers come, and during our patient appointments, we have all these huge tubes coming down into the toilets, and all the toilets are closed, and patients aren't able to use the toilets because this is going on." I hope the Minister can get the transcript or go back and listen to the interview. 9:06 a.m, Minister, on ABC Radio. But it just keeps repeating all the time she goes on. Nothing actually seems to be, like the whole building really needs to be revamped. But we've been on about this for the last, probably, her words, 4 or 5 years. The former Health Minister's not here.
No.
The bloke they wanted to give the Health Ministry to, he didn't want the job. The bloke behind him, well, they probably didn't want to give him the job because he didn't think he was up to it, so it fell to the new Health Minister. It's all of those people over 4 or 5 years. She goes on, Nadia, it's not just happening now, it's been going on for ages. And again, Nadia says, and when you complain about it, what response do you get, Leanne? Oh, we just get a response that, yeah, we've been getting around to it. But, you know, there's other departments that need doing also, which I do understand, but we have a lot of patient circulation through this building. It's actually quite embarrassing. And all the patients we're always telling them to, complain, because they honestly can't believe what we, the conditions that they are subject to. Even our staff toilets are disgusting, Nadia, says Leanne. And then a final comment from Nadia Mitsopoulos. Leanne, when I put it to the minister, he said no, surgeries weren't cancelled, everything can still go on. How do you respond to that justification? And Leanne's final comments, 9:06 a.m, Minister, easy to find. Get your team to dig it up and play it to you when you get back to your office. She replies by saying, yeah, no, I just find, that's actually ridiculous because it's putting staff and everyone under pressure. It's just the whole psychological part of it. Like, how can you possibly work in conditions like that? It is ridiculous, finished Leanne. If Leanne was here in question time today, members on this side, I shudder to think what she would have thought of the responses that we saw from members opposite. I understand more than anyone, this is a robust environment. I get that, we all get it. But we are talking today about the health of West Australians. We are talking about one of the biggest hospitals in Western Australia. A hospital, I note, that has a significant connection to many West Australians. And yet today, we see responses from those opposite at press conferences and led by the Premier with one thing and one thing only in mind: to dismiss, to deny, to deflect, to dispute. Now, on behalf of the people of Western Australia, that's who we are up on our feet for today. We're here for those patients. We're here for those sick, for those injured, for those dying, who have to put up with this level of activity, radioactive waste, black mould and sewage leaks, as reported in today's paper, when they visit this significant hospital in Western Australia. And I would have thought today, of all days, the Premier, having heard all of this and read all of this and understood all of this, might have said, you know what, this isn't great. In fact, we're disappointed that that's what patients, doctors, nurses and staff are encountering when they step inside at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. And he may have, if he possibly remembered that advice that he gave to his new team when he became Premier. Remember he said, be humble? Be humble. Remember he said that? Where was the Premier's humility today? Where was his team's humility today? And I tell you who must reckon the Premier is absolutely magnificent, his old mate, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. He must be absolutely rapt to have Roger Cook as a mate, because as soon as something goes just a little bit wrong, and they like to call me a commentator, a little handball over there, Attorney General, that's what the Premier's number one game is. Handball it over to the Prime Minister, and then we'll say we're going over there to ask him for more beds in aged care. Don't worry about the 10 years that you've been in charge. Don't worry about the 3 health ministers that have had carriage of this portfolio and who have abandoned the people of Western Australia. But worse than the abandonment, they refuse to acknowledge any fault. They refuse to put their hand up and say sorry to the people of Western Australia. They refuse to show any humility and say, it's not going as well as it should. We're going to put every effort into fixing it. And I tell you what they could do. Because everywhere we go, every day of the week, right around the state, members opposite, might be important that you hear this. And we know you know it, but it might be important that you tell your leadership. The $217 million racetrack that nobody wants, that serves no purpose and will benefit nobody, could be and should be redirected into the urgent maintenance at Sir Charles Gardner Hospital and associated health failings on the watch of this state government.
Shame.
Just have a think about it for a moment. You're all here for a reason. You get an opportunity. You can speak up. You can tell them at meetings. You can tell them at meetings. You have an opportunity to say, you know what? The opposition have been banging on about the racetrack and they keep saying our priorities are wrong. And guess what? That's what our constituents are saying as well. Do your leadership a favour, members. Do them a favour. And I urge those opposite, please don't trivialise these very, very serious denials. Please don't dismiss them. Please don't demean the people coming forward and making these accusations, or rather reporting what is happening around them. Please treat them with respect. Please treat them with seriousness. And please, into our third health minister now, please make fixing our hospitals your absolute, undivided, #1 priority.
Thank you, Leader.